Well, from Glasgow we go to Maidenhead and be joined by the former Prime Minister Theresa May. Good morning, Mrs May.
Good morning, Andrew.
Just check, because I know we've had some sound problems. When you called a general election 2 years ago, you lost your majority. Boris Johnson has called an election and achieved a quite substantial majority. What has he done right that you did wrong?
Well, I'm very pleased at the majority that Boris has achieved, because this does the essential thing, which I think for many people led how they voted at this election, which is enabling us to have a parliament that is going to have, with a majority government, the ability to take decisions and, crucially, the ability to get the Brexit legislation through so we can get Brexit sorted, get it done and move the country on, and then focus on those many other priorities that people want us as a government to focus on a day-to-day basis.
But my question was, why did you lose your majority and why did he gain a substantial one?
Well, Andrew, I thought I'd sort of given you the answer in what I've just said, which is that actually at this election, I think people were faced with a very clear choice about whether or not they wanted to ensure that Brexit was delivered. And they knew that if a Conservative majority government got in, that we would deliver Brexit. Every Conservative candidate signed up to support the deal and to get that legislation through, that Brexit through by the 31st of January. That was a very clear choice for a lot of people. This election was about ensuring that we could get over this deadlock in Parliament and could actually get Brexit done and move on.
Is it realistic in your view that Mr Johnson can negotiate a comprehensive free trade deal with the EU in 11 months?
Yes, because actually an awful lot of work on that has already been done. It was done in the original set of negotiations. It's in the political declaration that sits alongside the withdrawal agreement that will form, obviously, the core of the withdrawal agreement bill that will be before Parliament. So a lot of work has already been done, and with the will on both sides to ensure that we can now deliver on that future relationship, the negotiation on the future relationship, yes, it is possible.
The Scottish National Party are the other big victors tonight. They have swept Scotland on a manifesto calling for a second Scottish referendum. How would you advise the Prime Minister to handle that?
Well, I think it's very simple. I would advise him to continue taking the position that he has done, which was the position that I took, which is that the Scottish National Party themselves said in 2014 that that referendum about Scottish independence was a once-in-a-generation, indeed a once-in-a-lifetime referendum, and therefore they should accept that result. And, of course, we all know that it is in Scotland's economic interest for them to be part of the United Kingdom.
But in that Scottish referendum in 2014, people like you also told the Scots that the surest way of staying inside the European Union was to remain in the United Kingdom. That didn't quite work out that way, and now they're voting for a party that wants a second referendum because there's a material change. England voted to leave the EU. Scotland did not vote to leave the EU. So why should you deny them a second referendum?
But independence for Scotland would not mean them staying in the European Union. It was made very clear at the time of the independence referendum that if Scotland became independent, they would not be a member of the European Union.
But let them vote. If that's the case, let them vote. Even if they know that, let them vote. I mean, Scotland and England are now deeply divided. You cannot have a constitutional standoff and simply say, no, you can't have another vote.
You know, as Prime Minister, I have spent quite a time in the House of Commons being questioned by the SNP, and they had one issue only, and it was about independence. Actually, if you look at what has happened in Scotland, where they are in government, their education system has deteriorated under the SNP in government. They have problems with their National Health Service. Actually, I think it's time the SNP focused on the day-to-day issues, on the job of governing in Scotland, and stop simply putting this single issue of independence forward.
OK, well, they still swept Scotland tonight, but we'll leave it there. Theresa May, thank you for joining us from Maidenhead and your constituencies there. Theresa May was returned with a reduced majority in Maidenhead.